Yo, Big Catch back up in here. Drake just officially lost his mind. And we're about to react to this video by fantastic hip hop. And this is crazy, y'all. Y'all ain't gonna believe this. Y'all check this shit out. This ain't that. Nah, let's get into this video, man. We about to react to. I'm gonna leave a link in the description for y'all to watch it unfiltered and uninterrupted. Y'all know I'm like holding y'all. Without further ado, let's get it.
Now, when it comes to Drake and the release of his album SSS for You, after all of the excuses, coping, and crash outs, they gotta follow through, and there is no more running from the truth. As with this 21
Man, I just seen Kai Cenat's reaction to one of them songs on that album. It was so fake. His reaction was so fake and so forced. I was like, oh my God, if this boy ain't getting paid, he got to be getting paid.
Song disaster, despite the fact that Drake and everyone around him are in such a fantasy world that they are trying to act like this record's performance is not seeing a near 50% drop off from Drake's most recent albums. In the reality of everything, the music industry, hip-hop, and the entire world is now seeing that Drake has had one of the biggest fall-offs that we have seen in hip-hop history. As now that the actual numbers have come out for this record and we are looking at how this entire project is holding up, it has failed more than anybody on Drake's side of things would ever want to admit. And now, before we go any further into all of this, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. And now, as we are really here and Drake has failed this bad with this thing, it is more important than ever to leave a like and subscribe, because the Drake fans don't want you to hear about how bad this record is actually doing.
They don't want you to hear what he got to say. They trying to silence fantastic hip hop. He letting us know the information. They don't want you to. They do not want you to hear what Fantastic got to say. You know what I'm saying?
And how bad things are about to get for their guy now that this album has actually failed. And so, of course, with that said, when it comes to Drake and SSS for You, well, Drake is trying to act like this album belongs with the rest of his number ones and is making this thing seem like a success because
Hey, look, Drake trying to act like this belong with his other albums. Hey, look. Drake trying to act like this belong with his other albums. This shit don't belong here, boy. This don't belong over here with these. Stop trying to act like we don't see you, Dick.
It's Party Next Door's best performing album, which I mean is only because Drake has finally taken him out of the writer's room and has actually given him somewhat of an actual role and presence that people can see here.
Yeah.
Beyond whatever they are trying to tell you, this album has actually performed atrociously, and even with the first week numbers being 246,000, as really these numbers from streaming were barely pushing over 200,000, and the only reason why this record did nearly 250 is because Drake fans have made these pathetic plans to support the album and boost its numbers, all because they actually believe that this record is being suppressed. Overall, when you compare this record's performance to Honestly Nevermind, which had about just as low sales and streaming numbers, but when you realize that one of these records in Honestly Nevermind had half of the tracks, I mean, when you actually measure what this music means and what it represents in the industry, beyond that record being a surprise dance album that was released out of nowhere, because of just how big this album is in terms of its track list with 21 whole songs compared to most other major records that are being put out today. Overall, what's really making Drake lose it, as it's exposing that the world is seeing just how low performing this record actually is the fact that when it comes to the one thing that Drake has talked about over and over again, which are top charting songs, as again, let's remember, from saying he's got more songs on the Billboard than the Beatles to going on a whole tangent on his collab with J. Cole where he was saying that he was one #1 song away from MJ. Drake really reached a point where he was so chart obsessed that this meant everything to him. And again, even comparing this to the previous worst Drake album in the streaming era, Honestly Nevermind, which had 3 top 10 songs and one that reached #1 when the album dropped in Jimmy Cooks. It's really poetic and so telling about how this entire moment in hip-hop went and where it is going, that after Drake's last #1 song was bragging about how he is only getting bigger on these charts, and that he's ultimately gonna be bigger than the greatest artist before him, and of course this is also the song that made Kendrick come out and diss him and J. Cole in the first place. Now seeing how after Drake said this and he has to see all of his own words become Kendrick Lamar's reality because of just how much he overstepped everything on that song, seeing him now return, and after we were already in an era where for multiple albums at this point, The only reason Drake was getting #1 songs in the first place was because the momentum and numbers from the projects were so big, and not because he was creating massive cultural moments with singles like he used to back in the day, or like Kendrick Lamar has been currently.
Yep.
Because the only thing people were talking about from these records were the gimmicks and not the actual music. Seeing Drake's downfall.
That's what Drake is starting to be known for, gimmicks. And what outfit he has on in front of the mirror when he takes those selfies. He's starting to be noticed for. Matter of fact, he needs people. He always need people, bro. Always need people. And it's sad to say what he's doing is he's dragging other artists down with him. He's dragging Party Next Door down with him. That is sad, man. That man had a chance to have a good career. Now he's just going to be known for, like, SSS for you. Damn, he could have had his own little lane. Y'all could have ate like that. You could have just put whatever you had into his project by himself. But no, you got to be on the forefront of everything. Just look at Drake and 21 Savage. He got to be in the front. Look at Drake right here in this little picture. He got to be in the front. He just got to be there, all in the front. That's what who said that? Suge Knight. You got to be all in the videos. You got to be all up front.
Reach a point where, because he has just failed to make genuinely great chart-topping songs, and because nobody cares as well about these daunting messes of albums that he is trying to pass off now, he can't even get anywhere back near the top of the Billboard charts. And really, because of this, overall, just adding to why Drake is losing it over the fact of how bad this album is doing. If his career continues to perform like this record and things just continue to spiral out of control, which it seems like they are going to, well, then those lines he said about being one away from Mike are gonna stand the test of time very well, as it's looking like Drake will never be able to break that record which he was so overly confident about taking from Mike in the worst way possible. And really, with Drake currently, as everything about this SSS For You album is showing that it's not gonna last on the charts, and maybe aside from one song in a few weeks, nobody is gonna be talking about anything from this album other than how much it showcased that Drake's time in the center of hip-hop and music is up, and that he will never be able to get that massive deal that he wants from his label, because what this album is doing really is just laughable compared to what Drake still believes he is worth. Overall, with Drake,
there's no way they're going to give him $600 million for another deal. If they do, they got something planned. Just like Wack 100 said they're going to put something on his ass. They definitely going to put something on him.
He's now realizing is that everyone really has chose Kendrick Lamar and all of the other stars running things over him. And now, because this is the reality that Drake has to deal with, and again, while adjusting to the fact that his time at the center of everything is over, there has been one thing that Drake has learned in the process of his album flopping that we are going to see a lot more from him going forward, which is that when it comes to the current state of his career, despite all of the listeners he has already lost and that he is never going to get back, he still has something he can benefit from, which comes down to the fact that being even more delusional than him, his loyal fans will believe anything he says and will continue to follow him no matter what happens. And really, despite how bad everything else looks for Drake, he has realized that he does hold something that he can use to keep being a problem in the industry at the very least. Because really, with what Drake did when the release of this album was not going as he thought and everything was showing that it was going to be a flop, was just spread lies about how this record is being suppressed by the music industry, and he played into practices that made his fan base support him and get more angry at everyone else just because things were not pulling in the numbers that he, or anybody else for that matter, had been used to seeing from Drake. I mean, with somebody who's trying
and all of that, when we searched for Drake, Kendrick Lamar showed up. All that stuff is a lie. All that, they rigged up their personal little computer, their personal phone, or however they try to prove that they have receipts. They rigged that stuff up for it to happen in a moment. Because when genuine people tried it, he popped right up. He's just mad they're not forcing him on you like they did before.
Trying to compete with not just a rapper as elite as Kendrick Lamar, but a star as big as Taylor Swift in the music industry, and wants to be on the same playing field in terms of what they bring in and what they're worth. The fact that Drake is now at a point where, because his music is flopping and not getting the attention he wants to, that Drake is just lying and playing into weird narratives to his fans to just get them more mad at everybody else for no reason other than just to get them to support what he is doing within a context that is not even real. With Drake having to resort to this just to do Honestly Nevermind numbers with an album that has the track list length of For All the Dogs and
he stole Future whole style of the beat switches. What was that song with him and Future but everybody was just waiting on Future's part. They didn't care about Drake's part. Wait, 500,000 on the shoe on the pinky ring, little bitch. Little bitch. When Future part, that was the only part everybody was waiting on. Now, when you go to Drake and first person shooter, he did the same thing with Cole. Like he tried to do that crazy beat drop, like he coming in, yeah, well, you know what I'm saying? Bruh, he's trying to do the same thing. And I just recently heard one of the songs, I think it's the Give Me a Hug song on the Party Next Door joint. He did the same thing, trying to do the beat switch. He's trying to steal Future's style of that hardcore beat switch, because that's what Future did whenever he collabed with Drake. He'd do that hardcore beat switch, and don't nobody want to listen to Drake's part no more. They just want to skip straight to Future part. And now he's trying to do what Future did with him.
CLB is just laughable and shows how much he has lost. And I mean, now that after all of the ridiculous things Drake has done since losing to Kendrick Lamar have really all led up to this point where we are now seeing that his albums do not work the way they once did, he better get ready to just continue to lose, because while if this record was done right, it could have been maybe used as a chance to show that he is still a top act, or maybe even in hip-hop, that despite not being #1 in terms of popularity, which Kendrick of course has just taken over and made not even a debate anymore, he could still be a #2. I mean, even that is not happening, because this album just did nothing to show any single person from fans he has lost to the industry as a whole that whatever Drake has to offer is not some of the most boring and lackluster material that you can find in an industry where fans are starting to listen to more music that is actually—
There you go, lackluster, there you go, there you go.
Actually moving things forward and innovating on some level more than ever. And again, just as I said, we were going to see from Drake and everyone around him that despite the fact that they are trying to make this album flop sound like some sort of a win, I mean, winners don't have to explain themselves as much as they have been trying to, because really, every single person around Drake is spiraling, as literally GNX and its 12 songs in its first week have outperformed everything Drake and OVO have put out in their first weeks recently combined, and it's not even close. And now, because of the fact that at the end of this all, this is a group of people who don't even actually like the music they are putting out or the art of it all, and have just loved running up the charts and numbers, for Drake and his fans, they don't know how to move forward right now, because actually being left with only the music and not the numbers is something they have never experienced, and it's really just so great seeing people like AK and everyone else in OVO just completely have to redefine their identities because of this, as it's really just showing the fact that they have never been hip-hop fans, and they are only Drake fans, and they only like him for the most ridiculous reasons possible. And so with Drake and—
Man, that was a powerful point somebody made. I think it was Fantastic Hip Hop said, yeah, there's a difference between hip hop fans and Drake fans. Like, yo, they really have an obsession with him. They don't care about nothing else.
Everything that he has been doing now, as it has already been so dull, superficial, and shallow. While we won't see it yet, and Drake is not going to admit it for a very long time, down the line we are going to see Drake just detach from music when he eventually accepts the fact that he lost it all in terms of being the top guy on the charts, because for so long already, it has clearly been about nothing else besides the numbers for him, and now the fact that he is losing to everybody he has beefed with, whether that's Kendrick, SZA, and The Weeknd, his label, or so much else, as Drake is not making music that is trying to move himself and challenge his skills. Without the numbers and excitement of putting something out and seeing if it will start a trend like he did for his last albums, and really that was the only reason why he was doing anything that was so clear, Drake is quickly going to get bored of making the same bad music but with returns that are looking like SSS for You's first week, and because of this, while we don't know where this is all going to go and how this will affect everything happening with Drake yet, as this year continues and we see Drake try to force a comeback that nobody else thinks is going to happen, and we're going to have to witness him just quietly spiral out over the fact that he really has lost everything, and of course this album is direct proof of that. Well, going forward, as Drake now has to live in a time where he has really flopped worse than ever, we are about to see how much the biggest downfall we have ever seen from a star like this in hip-hop history is about to change how the entire landscape of his career and everything else in rap looks. So now with all this said, let me know. What do you think about what went down with Drake and his album flop? What do you think about how he is trying to handle all of this? And what do you think is going to happen as we just—
Yeah, I think he's handling it poorly. And they said that he about to drop a solo album. I just want to see I would just want to see how desperate he gets. He's going to get very desperate to the point he's going to get tired of himself. That's what I believe. That's what I believe. He's just going to have to admit defeat. He's just going to have to face it. If he give what's this month? We going into March. If he just be quiet, March, April, May, June, July, he step out in August, and we don't hear nothing from him until then, he might have a little chance of selling a couple records. But he got to be quiet. And he might not. He don't even know how to do that right now, man. His mouth too big, man. Y'all let me know what y'all feel, man. Big Kish signing out. I'm going, y'all.